This entire Epstein list debacle has become completely unhinged. And this new development that we received today has made this entire situation a whole lot weirder. Jeffrey Epstein was originally indicted July of 2019 on charges that stem from him trafficking young girls.
Today, we announce the unsealing of sex trafficking charges against Jeffrey Epstein. The charges allege that Epstein sexually abused young girls by enticing them to engage in sex acts for money. Epstein was arrested this past Saturday evening at Teterboro Airport aboard his private jet that had just landed from Paris, France. Epstein was taken to the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. Epstein is charged in a two-count indictment. First, conspiracy to commit sex trafficking, and second, the substantive crime of sex trafficking of underage girls. Beginning in at least 2002 and continuing until 2005, Epstein is alleged to have abused dozens of victims by causing them to engage in sex acts with him at his mansion in New York and at his estate in Palm Beach, Florida. The victims, all under oath at the time of the alleged conduct, were given hundreds of dollars in cash after each encounter, either by Epstein or by one of Epstein's employees. The underage girls were initially recruited to provide Epstein with massages and often did so nude or partially nude.
Truly, without a doubt, one of the most despicable, horrific human beings to ever live. But here's the crazy part, and this also ties into what's currently going on right now, and people just sort of gloss over this fact, but this wasn't the first time Epstein was arrested for this. Back in 2008, he was arrested by Florida prosecutors, and he was given a sweetheart deal. Back in 2008, Jeffrey Epstein was facing potential federal indictment for abusing dozens of young girls between 1999 and 2007. He was also being investigated for directing other people to abuse them and paying employees to bring victims to him, according to court filings. Now, hold on to that word, directing others to also engage in the abusing of these young women. However, the prosecutors agreed to not pursue the federal indictment against Jeffrey Epstein in exchange for if Jeffrey Epstein just pled guilty to a Florida state prostitution charge. Epstein was sentenced to 13 months in jail after that plea, but allowed to leave regularly to go to his office. Obviously, that's strange. That's very strange. You did a full investigation, you found evidence, and you found proof that this man and others were transporting really young women, engaging in intercourse with them, engaging in sexual activity with them. And after you investigated and found out who those men were that were Epstein's co-conspirator, you said, hold on. Hey, bruh, just plead guilty to these state prostitution charges, and let's not even get into this federal indictment, bruh. And when you plead guilty to the state charges, it's a non-prosecute for the federal indictment. You would never have to worry about this. All right, let's not worry about this. That's unprecedented. That's strange. That's odd. That's bizarre. Anybody, not a conspiracy theorist, but just anybody would ask themselves, why would the feds investigate this man, find nothing but evidence and proof that him and others conspire? You got the name of the other people who conspired with him, but after your investigation, you say, yeah, it's best you take these lesser charges and let's just forget about this. What were we trying to forget about? Well, one of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, Virginia Golf, she has her own theory as to why the feds were adamant and persistent in Jeffrey Epstein taking a non-prosecute deal with the state. So whatever the feds investigated don't come out. What was the cover-up? The same government who did a full investigation in 2008 and confirmed that Epstein and others violated young women on that island, so they gave him a under-the-table hush-hush sweetheart deal to prevent whoever conspired with Epstein from coming out. That same government in 2019 indicted Epstein again in New York this time However, out of the thousand of Epstein victims, they brought forth three. And those three all of a sudden confirmed with the feds that it was only Epstein and nobody else. And the feds proceeded with that theory. However, while the feds were trying to get off that, a woman decided to come forward and say, hold on, I'm also a Epstein victim. Add me to the petition. I want to tell my story. And it was not just Epstein, it was other very powerful men. The feds did everything in their power to not include this woman in their case. That woman name is Virginia Goff. Now, she's not just talking or blowing hot air. She has a verifiable picture with her, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's runner, and Prince Andrews. She's so official that when Ghislaine and Prince Andrews try to say the picture is fake, the photographer who took the picture, who had other copies of the picture, said, no, this picture is 100% real. So this woman who was working day and night to try to get added to this case because she wanted to expose the other prominent men involved, but she was never allowed to. Well, she came out and she gave her particular theory or what she knows about that particular deal that the feds gave Epstein in the first place. In her lawsuit, she said that she was Epstein's essential slave for 4 years. Now, she managed to escape to a foreign country and hide out from Epstein and his co conspirators for years. Now, the plaintiff believes that the government was part of Epstein's conspiracy when it secretly negotiated a non prosecution agreement with Epstein, precluding federal prosecution of Epstein and his co conspirators. The government's secrecy, the plaintiff alleged, was motivated by its fear that the plaintiff would raise powerful objections to the agreement that would have shed tremendous public light on Epstein and other powerful individuals. Which to me is the only explanation that makes sense. In your 2008 investigation, you claim that Epstein and others did it. In 2019, all of a sudden it's only Epstein and all these powerful men that we know were on that island and we know were linked to Epstein. Nobody is involved all of a sudden. It looks like handlers stepped in and made sure this problem was solved. And the two people who had the greatest chance of outing who these powerful men were that engaged in Epstein's ring was Epstein and Virginia. Epstein, because he was an extortionist, he was a blackmailist, and he had every intention on taking everybody with him down. Epstein all of a sudden took his own life. And Virginia, the other person with the greatest chance of outing who these powerful men were, and was actually outing them in the moment, she all of a sudden took her own life as well. Virginia coincidentally took her own life April of 2025 while the DOJ and FBI was investigating any possible links to powerful men that were on Epstein Island who engaged in acts that violated my though one of the only victims who was pushing for these men to come to justice and given names all of a sudden took her own life while the investigation was happening. Well, lucky for us, Virginia Goff didn't die in vain because the FBI ran by Kash Patel and the DOJ did a full-on investigation to bring justice to Epstein victim and to answer the questions by the public. They released their final report on the situation, and this report answered two questions. The first question they attempted to answer was, did Epstein take his own life, or was this a larger conspiracy of men who didn't want to be outed who took the life of Epstein? Also, they also answered the question of, where's the Epstein list? Were there other men who was on that island violating young women who hasn't been brought to justice yet? So the report sought to answer those two questions, and this is the last thing we will ever get from the FBI and the DOJ in regards to Epstein. So let's check it out, man. What did this report say? Lord and behold the final report. After reviewing 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence, all right, after reviewing all that material and all that evidence, can y'all scroll to the bottom of the screen for me, okay? The last paragraph. They said they've done a thorough review and they found no basis to revisit the disclosure of those material. It would not permit the release of child porn, which is just dishonest. Nobody is asking for the release of child porn. You could blur out everything but the faces of those powerful men who we know are involved. But they also continued, okay? They said, listen, The systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. So that's odd. That's particularly odd because if you go to Ghislaine Maxwell case, she was charged with trafficking women. It's a Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, and others known and unknown. Well, who are the others that are known? Who did knowingly persuade, induce, entice, and coerce one and more individuals to travel in interstate and foreign commerce to engage in sexual activities? Who are the known? You can't have it both ways. You don't charge Ghislaine Maxwell for conspiring with Epstein and others known who aren't listed, but then say, oh, there were no others. It was only Epstein. It doesn't make sense, people. As a matter of fact, the only thing that is consistent are the lies, or the absolute lies. And you kind of have to have some pity or some sympathy for these people because Kash Patel realized very quickly that when you get into office, you're just a cog in the corrupt system. You're not about to change a goddamn thing. And if you do attempt to change things, well, that's your behind. Kash got into that director role and looked and seen any and everybody who attempted to tackle this Epstein stuff and expose these people, they all of a sudden take their own life. Kash didn't want to take his own life. All right? They can't keep up with the lies. Pam Bondi, she was telling people, yo, we got all the client list, we got all the files on my desk right now. We about to release it to the public. What happened to this?
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
Now, all of a sudden, there's no list. The list don't exist. And when we even mention the fact that, yo, these things aren't really adding up, now we're the conspiracy theorists, even though the literal FBI director, who was filled with life and spirit and spunk before he became an FBI director, had the exact same opinion as the rest of America. But once he got a part of the swamp and the machine, he all of a sudden is now a company man.
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list? And why is it that the Senate, and good for Senator Blackburn to try to get it out, but then Dick Durbin comes over the top and says, no, we're not going to release the names. I don't care about the list itself, but if release the names, right?
And I've said it, Dan Bongino said it, we've reviewed all the information and the American public is going to get as much as we can release. He killed himself. Do you think, let's play out the logical conclusion of this. Do you think that myself, Bongino, and others would participate in hiding information about Epstein's grotesque activities? Or do you think we would also participate in not prosecuting people we had evidence to prosecute people on? Where's the videotape of an Epstein Island of X, Y, and Z committing these frauds? Why haven't you given it to us? Do you really think I wouldn't give that to you if it existed?
No, I don't, honestly. No, I don't. Y'all are extremely dishonest and performative. Y'all remember when these people invited journalists to the White House and then gave them binders labeled Epstein files and then made them take a photo op with these binders to make it seem as if they were committed to bringing justice and this was a new era and the sheriff was in town? Well, ever since this photo op, bro, what's been the updates? Nothing, not a goddamn thing. And speaking of more performative things, Kash Patel and the FBI allegedly, apparently so, they released 12 hours of footage to prove that Epstein did indeed take himself out, that nobody came into Epstein's cell. So even the footage they released is just super janky, super sketchy. People got a lot of issues and a lot of questions, and there's a lot of inconsistency with the footage they released to prove that Epstein took his own life. First off, the unedited footage literally jump cuts. And if we go ahead and continue to figure out why it was jump cutted, that's because there's a minute missing. Let's look at Exhibit A, okay? So we're at the 4 hour, 16 minute, and 22 second mark. And the video, or the quote unquote footage of Epstein's cell, it's at 11 p.m. 58 minutes, okay? You see that, right? Well, literally 1 second later, we're now at midnight. It jumped a minute and a couple of seconds. So the video is edited. So that takes away all type of credibility, bro. What are we doing here? Why is it edited? Also, if that's not weird enough for you, on the bottom is an actual picture of Epstein's cell. That's the actual picture of Epstein's cell, 220. That is a completely different cell from whatever cell they're showing us in that video. Why? Why all the mystery? Why all the BS? Why all the buffoonery? Why all the games? The truth usually isn't complicated. Whenever you see something that's to the extent where it's always something to it, there's always a mystery, it's usually fraudulent, it's usually a lie. The truth don't really need too much explanation. What is going on here? And the one thing that really boiled my blood is you have members of the media who are now coming out and trying to pass off the narrative that maybe the Epstein cover-up is happening for our own good. Do we really want the Epstein cover-up to come up and expose the prominent figures if it means our society collapses and tears down? Yes. Yes. Absolutely, bro. Absolutely, man. If society thriving means that perpetrators of kids get to be anonymous, no, bro. Sorry, bro. Sorry. Expose it all, even if it means exposing our very government.
We are built on and blackmailing the most powerful
What
people.
do you mean we are built? Define that. Do you mean our entire country? Our entire government? Our entire FBI, CIA?
I'm saying this. Whoever,
or this is one little operation that they don't want to expose?
Whoever he was working for, Epstein, Mossad, CIA, everything. Apparently, the most powerful people on the world were flying to an island and having sex under because she said it. There's tens of thousands of hours of them doing it. If we're built on that and the most powerful people that are running the show are in charge, the guys telling Cash Patel, the thing that you just read, shut up. Shut up about it. Hold on, you know who I am. He knows who I am. I want accountability for everybody. If it's Trump, if it's Bill Gates, if it's Bill Clinton, I don't give a shit. If it's the president of anything, expose them because, Adam, the truth has to come out.
Okay, so I only have one question for you,
yes,
my dear friend. I agree with you. But at what price?
Take a deep breath.
Okay. But hold on, hear me out. At what price?
At any price, Adam.
So you're saying to expose whatever happened on Epstein Island, you're willing to do whatever this looks like.
Yes.
Tear down the government, expose all the secrets, put America basically in harm's way just to find out what's Epstein.
What do you mean, Adam?
Because these are the most powerful people in the world. They're apparently on this island.
Adam, so let the truth be told or the heavens fall. I don't care.
Okay,
well, Adam, and that's who Vincent O'Shana is. I am 100% accountability, and I don't give a if Adam. If that's what we were built on,
but at what price?
I don't give a shit.
Tearing down America.
Price. Guess what the price is, Adam? God.
So
God's
you want
the price.
You're going to
answer them anyway.
You want to rule a city of ashes.
I don't give a shit. It's built on and rape. Yes, because
you're being emotional.
No, I'm not. I'm being real.
You have to understand.
I'm being real.
The whole concept of do you want to cut your nose off to spite your face? There might be an issue. But do you want to cut your whole nose off and ruin your entire face because you care that much about this entire issue?
If the machine is running right now because are running the show and they're telling him, shut the hell up because we're all pedophiles, knock it down. And my last thing, pal, what bothered me about what he said is we're not going to re-victimize the girls and the victims.
We're not
going to do it.
Cash?
Yes, yeah, Cash. Guess what? Nobody wants to see any girl. I don't want to see any kids, male, boy, under. Blur them out. But who's the guy that's touching them? Who's the guy that's molesting and raping? This is a horrible argument. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Anybody even making an argument that there's something good that could come from the consequences of hiding and undermining kids being taken advantage of by powerful men, I don't think you deserve a space on social media. I don't think you deserve a space on the internet in general, bro. I don't know about y'all, but I'm not willing to entertain any theory, anything that keeping this a secret is actually for our good, I'm good, bro. If something bad gotta happen to society because these kids need justice, give the kids justice, bro. But let me know in the comment section, what do you guys think about this, man? What do you guys think, okay? Do y'all believe? Do y'all believe that the Epstein don't got no client list, don't got no people involved in this? Or do y'all believe there's a cover up? Let me know in the comment section. And if you're still watching, click on this video right here to find out how Cassie isn't in the clear. How this really bad news that just came to Cassie's door may take away all $30 million that she have received for being a victim of Diddy. I'm going to see you guys in this video somewhere on my screen. I'm out of here, folks. Peace.